Colin was shocked to discover, just moments ago, he had clearly been split through the skull with a blade. But not only did he not die, he inexplicably recovered completely and gained the ability of immortality. However, when he woke up, his entire tribe, hundreds of people, had already been slaughtered, and his beloved wife, Moya, had been cruelly hanged on a cross. From that moment on, he became a lost soul living only for vengeance, in search of his enemies. Colin wandered the world for centuries, until finally, today, thousands of years later, he discovered a clue. At the same time, several monsters were devouring humans when they were startled to see a lone human male walking directly toward them. Seeing this fresh prey walk right into their arms, the monsters were thrilled, but in the blink of an eye, blades flashed through the air, and Colin's sword sliced through every last one of them. Just then, a shadowy figure carrying a chainsaw stepped out from the darkness. This man was none other than the leader of the ghouls, but Colin's face was filled with disappointment, because this was not the enemy he was looking for. The ghoul was furious at Colin's attitude. He immediately launched a furious attack, but Colin effortlessly decapitated him.
Time to die.
In that instant, a massive wave of life energy erupted from the ghoul's corpse like a flood, and Colin absorbed every last drop of it. But this overwhelming surge of energy caught the attention of a mysterious man atop a distant tower. The next day, Colin walked alone across a crumbling bridge. Beside him, a half-sunken and shattered aircraft carrier spoke of a bygone age and the fall of civilization, carrying the severed head of the ghoul. Colin arrived in the city to claim a bounty, but was immediately surrounded by the guards at the gate. One of the soldiers told him a powerful figure inside the city wanted to see him. The city lay in ruins and silence, its streets lined with piles of skeletal remains. The soldier explained that a plague had broken out recently, and without a vaccine, death was almost certain. After Colin got the information he needed, he swiftly eliminated the two soldiers and left the place behind. Meanwhile, a woman named Dahlia had been silently tailing Colin to a tavern. Her arrival instantly drew the attention of all the men. One man pulled out cash, hoping to strike a deal with her, but to everyone's shock, Dahlia pulled out a dagger and pressed it to the man's most vulnerable spot. Her fierce presence sent him running for his life. Then Dahlia slowly approached Colin. To Colin's astonishment, her voice and appearance were identical to that of his deceased wife. Gradually, Dahlia's face began to overlap with the image in his memory. Colin was pulled into a flood of memories. It was his wedding night with Moya, but also the beginning of his countdown to death, because the very next day, he would lead his entire tribe into battle against the mighty Roman army. Though Colin knew the odds were hopeless and death was almost certain, he chose to fight for honor and pride. But Moya couldn't bear to watch him walk to his death. While Colin was off guard, she drugged him unconscious. Then, on her own, she went to see Marcus, the Roman commander. She offered her body in exchange, begging Marcus to spare her people and her beloved. But Marcus refused, so Moya made a bold decision to assassinate him. She drew a hidden dagger and stabbed Marcus's chest over and over. He collapsed to the ground. But just as Moya tried to escape the camp, the unthinkable happened. Marcus, who had just appeared to be dead, reappeared without a scratch. As punishment, Marcus tied Moya to a cross and forced her to watch as her tribe was destroyed. The screams and flames of the massacre snapped the drugged Colin back to consciousness, but the drug left him too weak to move. Before he could get far, a collapsing beam buried him. The Roman slaughter lasted through the night. When Colin finally crawled out from the ashes, every member of his tribe was dead, and his beloved Moya hung lifeless on the cross. In a single night, Colin lost everything. Colin stood frozen, staring at Dahlia in disbelief. He couldn't understand. How could two people in this world look so alike? But before Colin could think further, a shrill alarm shattered his thoughts. Helpless, Colin had no choice but to follow Dahlia and evade pursuit. The two of them passed through a flooded subway tunnel and arrived at a hidden underground settlement, a refuge for the oppressed civilians. But the situation here was dire. A severe shortage of resources and medicine had driven people to despair. Dahlia brought Colin to her room. She attempted to use her body in exchange for Colin's help. In this city now plagued by a rampant virus, people like them, those without identity or status, had no way to obtain the priceless vaccine. But with Colin's help, They might just have a chance. Yet Colin didn't want to get involved. His mind was focused on revenge and revenge alone. He left the shelter, but the moment he looked up at the giant screen, a storm of rage erupted inside him. Even after 1,000 years, Colin recognized him instantly. Marcus, the man who had slaughtered his tribe and his wife. And now, Marcus was the ruler of this city. Colin lost all sense of reason. Memories came flooding back into his mind. Colin infiltrated Marcus's camp in disguise. Marcus seemed to sense Colin's presence too. He decided to give Colin the opportunity for revenge. The two met on an open field to duel, but Colin was no match for Marcus. Within 2 rounds, Marcus took him down effortlessly. To everyone's surprise, Colin's horse carried his lifeless body straight to a sacred land. Marcus followed close behind, but within the sacred ground, no fighting was allowed. Marcus had no choice but to leave. As time passed, something unexpected happened. Colin's wounds began to heal. A bolt of lightning struck, and he opened his eyes. Still stunned, Colin was suddenly met by the soul of an old man within the sanctuary. The spirit told him Colin was a member of the immortals. As long as his head wasn't cut off, he would never truly die. And Marcus was one of the immortals as well. Burning with vengeance, Colin agreed to team up with Dahlia. She led him deep into Marcus's fortress. Colin's task helped them steal the virus vaccine, but on the way, they ran into Joey. From the shelter, Joey insisted on joining them. With time running short, they had no choice but to bring him along. But then, Joey's watch alarm suddenly went off. It startled a mutant crocodile hiding in the area. The 3 of them bolted, but Dahlia slipped and fell into the water. At that critical moment, Colin leapt in and sliced off the crocodile's head with a single blow. The trio pressed on and arrived at Marcus's castle. Facing the patrolling soldiers, Colin launched a full assault. They quickly forced their way into the lab, but as they began collecting the vaccines, they were stunned to discover the deadly virus ravaging the city had been artificially created. As they prepared to escape, Colin suddenly stopped. A massive golden door slowly opened. Colin could feel it. Marcus was waiting for him just ahead. Murderous intent surged in Colin's eyes. He boarded the elevator alone. The lift ascended slowly outside the golden tower. Looking down at the ruined city below, Colin's thoughts drifted back again. 2,000 years ago, Colin had led his forces to overthrow the Roman army, but when he faced the mighty Marcus, he was still defeated. Luckily, his comrades saved him in time. From that day forward, wherever Marcus waged war, Colin followed. This deadly cycle went on for nearly 1,000 years. Colin trailed Marcus across the world, waiting for a chance to strike. Each time he was killed, he resurrected, and each time, he set out again in pursuit of Marcus. Even during World War II, the 2 of them had crossed paths on the battlefield. And now, Colin had a powerful premonition. Everything was finally about to end. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Marcus was watching his female bodyguard, Kyala, perform. Kyala took out 3 silver needles from her leg and pierced through her opponent's body, killing them instantly. Marcus sensed Colin's presence in the castle and called for Kyala to join him in greeting his old friend. This old friend who has been chasing him for 2,000 years. Colin is still being rude. He came right at him, but Marcus effortlessly evaded Colin's attacks. It seemed like they were not engaged in a fight but rather reminiscing about old times. The battle raged from the interior of the castle to the rooftop. And in the midst of evading, Colin accidentally fell from the rooftop. Dahlia, thinking Colin had fallen to his death, turned to leave. However, Colin suddenly grabbed her. Dahlia then brought Colin back to their hideout. In Colin's mind, the white-haired old man appeared once again, reminding him that hatred had consumed him. Moya's spirit had followed him all this time, yet he had failed to notice. His heart was filled only with revenge, causing him to miss every chance to reunite with his beloved. Colin woke up with a start. He looked at Dahlia with sadness in his eyes. The people in the city expressed their gratitude for the antidote Colin brought back. They were preparing to launch an attack on Marcus, reclaiming their city. Colin, too, decided to join the battle. Afterward, Colin sought out Dahlia. realizing that he had forgotten about his beloved in his pursuit of revenge. He expressed his apologies to Dahlia, who tightly embraced him, tears streaming down her face. It seemed that Dahlia was the reincarnation of Moya. The two held each other tightly. After Dahlia fell asleep, Colin slowly walked out of the room. They all gathered at Marcus's camp. Kala arrived in a helicopter, relentlessly firing at Colin. Colin swiftly swung his weapon, dispatching the robots in front of him. He then used the bullets to ignite the oil barrels nearby. However, Kala continued to pursue him. Just as Kala thought she had the upper hand, Dahlia arrived and showered the helicopter with gunfire. The wounded Kala crashed with the plane, but then Kala woke up from the rubble. Dahlia instructed Colin to handle Marcus while she dealt with the remaining robots. Colin reached the top floor, where he saw Marcus preparing to release a toxic gas. He quickly intervened, evading Marcus's attacks and attempting to stop the gas release. However, Marcus stabbed him in the body. The gas started flowing throughout the castle. The infected pigeons dropped from the sky, catching Dahlia's attention. In Dahlia's momentary distraction, Kala ambushed her from behind. Using her last ounce of strength, Dahlia shoved a grenade into Kala's mouth, bidding a tearful farewell to Colin. Colin, injured and on the ground, sensed Dahlia's voice. Slowly, he rose to his feet, preparing for his final confrontation with Marcus. After Marcus was cut off, his body erupted with a tremendous amount of energy. The surge of energy instantly reduced the castle and its surroundings to ruins. But at the same time, this power also dispersed the virus that had plagued the city. Survivors poured into the streets, sharing the joy of making it through the disaster. This grudge that had lasted 2,000 years had finally come to an end. Yet even as the victor, Colin found no sense of relief. His eyes were filled with emptiness. In the pursuit of revenge, he had lost the one he loved most. He had lost everything.